My son looked me straight in the eyes and let go of my hand. Before I tell you what happened, let me say this clearly. If you're watching this, please subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and tell me in the comments where in the world you're watching from. Because what I'm about to share, no mother should ever experience. And if it happened to me, it can happen to anyone. He didn't slip. He didn't stumble. He didn't lose his balance. He chose to let go. I remember the moment in painful, freezing detail. The way my fingers clawed at the metal railing, the sharp wind hitting my face as my feet lost the ground beneath me, and the terrifying silence before gravity pulled me backward. But let me take you back. Because people always ask, how does a son reach the point of wanting his own parents dead? And the truth is, it doesn't happen overnight. It began quietly. Subtle changes in Daniel's behavior. Unexpected phone calls. Nervous glances. His new wife always hovering near him like a shadow with a painted smile. But the real fracture started months before the day he tried to kill us, after we discovered something he never intended for us to see. Richard, my husband, had been reviewing old documents when he stumbled upon evidence that didn't add up. Transactions Daniel had made. Money missing. Things registered under our names that we never signed for. It wasn't enough to accuse him directly, but it was enough to worry us. Enough to make Daniel desperate when he realized we knew. Still, when he invited us for a family day in the city, we went. Because that's what parents do. We believe in our children even when they break us. He took us to an expensive shopping district, then suggested we visit the rooftop viewpoint above the city. Tourists filled the place. Glass floors, high railings, cameras everywhere. A safe place. Or so we thought. We took the elevator up. Daniel talked non-stop. It was strange, like he was trying too hard. When the doors opened, I stepped toward the railing to admire the skyline stretching out below. I didn't notice him behind me until he placed a hand on my shoulder. Gently at first. Too gently. "Mom, be careful. Let me help you get a better view," he said. I smiled, thinking he was being affectionate. Then I felt it. His grip tightening. Fingers digging into my arm. Richard noticed instantly. "Daniel, what are you doing?" Daniel forced a laugh, but his eyes, they were terrified. Of us. Of what we knew. Of what might happen if we talked. Then everything happened at once. Daniel grabbed my wrist with both hands. Pulled me forward. Hard. My chest slammed into the railing. My feet lifted. I screamed. Richard lunged toward me, grabbing my other arm. For a moment I hung between them, my husband pulling me to safety, my son pushing me toward the drop. Daniel leaned close to my ear and whispered with a voice I barely recognized. "You should have stayed quiet." And then he shoved. Richard lost his grip. My body flipped backward. The sky spun. The ground roared up toward me. But death didn't take me, not that day. What Daniel didn't know was that just below the glass floor, hidden from the public walkway, there was a narrow maintenance platform. I crashed onto it hard, the metal slamming into my ribs, my back, my hip. Pain exploded through me, but I was alive. Richard screamed my name from above. I heard him struggling, heard the thuds, heard his voice cut off abruptly. Daniel must have dragged him back. My heart nearly stopped. I didn't know if he was hurt or worse. I lay on the metal platform, gasping, bruised, terrified, and shaking so violently my teeth clattered. Above me their shadows moved. Daniel leaned over the railing, but just for a second, then pulled away quickly as if afraid someone might see him. I knew then that this wasn't panic. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a moment of anger. It was planned, calculated, intentional. My own son had brought us here with only one purpose: to make sure we never spoke again. I stayed silent, hidden by the shadows and the platform's height. I didn't move, barely breathe. I didn't know where Richard was or what Daniel had done next. But I knew one thing for certain. This was just the beginning. I don't remember the exact moment when we hit the ground. My memories come in flashes: light, darkness, pain, blood, and then silence. But the first thing I became aware of wasn't my own body. It was my husband's hand, still gripping mine with a strength that didn't match the broken breath rattling through his chest. We were alive. Barely, but alive. I opened my eyes slowly, afraid of what I would see. The world was blurry, spinning, but two things were unmistakable. The cliff above us, where my son had stood just moments earlier. The echo of his scream, not of fear, but of anger. My husband squeezed my hand weakly. His lips were trembling, stained with red. "Don't move," he whispered. His voice was the thinnest thread of sound, almost carried away by the wind. "Don't make a sound." I didn't understand at first. Then I heard it. A step. Above us. Slow, searching, deliberate. He was still there. Our son was checking if we had died. My entire body turned to ice. Every instinct screamed to run, to crawl, to do something, anything. But my husband blinked at me, eyes sharp even with pain. "Pretend we're dead," he mouthed. I felt the air freeze in my lungs. It was one thing to survive a fall. It was another to lie still, completely still, knowing that the person searching for you was the child you had raised, loved, fed, protected. A child now trying to confirm your death. Tears slowly escaped the corner of my eyes and slid down into the dirt. I couldn't wipe them. I couldn't move. The footsteps got closer. Loose gravel fell from the cliff edge. A shadow passed above us. Tall, familiar, wrong. And then his voice. "Are they gone?" He wasn't talking to us. He wasn't even whispering. It was as if he were talking to someone on the phone. Or to someone else nearby. My heart thundered in my ears. My husband's grip tightened, warning me not to react. A second voice answered, faint but deep. I couldn't understand the words, but the tone made bile rise in my throat. He wasn't alone. Our son wasn't acting on impulse or rage. This was planned. When I realized that, the grief I felt transformed into something far more dangerous. Fear sharpened into survival. The shadow above us lingered. Then, a rock tumbled down and struck my shoulder. I wanted to scream, but my husband's nails dug into my palm. His warning was clear. "Don't move." Finally, after what felt like a lifetime, the footsteps receded. Branches cracked. Voices merged with the wind. And everything went silent again. Only then did I breathe. Only then did the pain rush in like a tidal wave. My ribs, my legs, the burning in my back from the fall. My husband slowly turned his head toward me. His eyes cold with determination, not fear. "He thinks we're dead," he whispered. "We need to keep it that way." I wanted to ask him why. Why our son had done this. Why he wasn't shocked or screaming or crying. Why he seemed almost prepared. Instead, I asked the only question that mattered. "Can we climb out?" He shook his head. "We don't climb. We hide. Hide. From our own child." His next words chilled me deeper than the fall ever could. "He wasn't acting alone," he said. And this wasn't the first attempt. I felt the world tilt again, not from pain but from the truth I hadn't seen. "What do you mean?" My voice was barely sound, more like breath. My husband swallowed hard. "There's something you don't know about our son. Something I should have told you months ago." The dread I felt in that moment was heavier than the rocks around us. Because the fear in my husband's eyes wasn't the fear of a man betrayed. It was the fear of a man who had been waiting for this. Before I could ask anything else, branches snapped nearby. Not above us. Not far away. Someone was climbing down. My husband pressed a shaking finger to his lips. "Don't breathe," he whispered. "And whatever happens, don't open your eyes." As the sound drew closer, every instinct in my body screamed to run. But I didn't. I lay there motionless, feeling the earth tremble with each step of whoever, or whatever, was approaching. And then, voice, close, too close. "She's still warm." I stopped breathing. The world went black. And all I could think was, this wasn't just attempted murder. This was a hunt. I kept my eyes shut so tightly that they burned. Every instinct begged me to look, to see who had descended into the ravine where my husband and I lay pretending to be corpses. But my husband's warning echoed through my skull. Whatever happens, don't open your eyes. So I didn't. I heard the man's breathing before anything else. Slow, heavy, steady. Not the frightened panting of someone stumbling upon an accident. Not the shaky breath of someone in shock. Well, this was calm, controlled, professional. He wasn't here by chance. He was here because he expected to find us. I felt his shadow fall over me. His boots scraped the dirt. For a moment, everything around me seemed to stop. The wind, the distant birds, even my heartbeat. Then his voice cut through the silence, low and cold. She's still warm. I almost broke right then. The urge to gasp, to cry, to run. It clawed at my lungs. But I stayed still. Every muscle locked in a terrified paralysis. He crouched beside me. I felt the ground shift under his weight. His fingers, gloved, touched my wrist, checking for a pulse. His grip tightened, almost testing. I forced myself to imagine I was dead. I let my body go limp, my breath shallow, my skin cold. A moment passed. Then another. Finally, he exhaled through his nose, as if analyzing something. She lost a lot of blood. The fall probably did the rest, he murmured. To someone above, someone listening. My son. The idea alone made a tear slip down my cheek. I prayed he didn't see it. He moved away from me and approached my husband. I heard him kneel, felt the subtle vibration of his weight shifting the dirt. Neck's broken, he said casually. As planned. Planned. My stomach twisted so violently I thought I might faint. This stranger wasn't just helping my son. He was part of this. And it wasn't spontaneous. It was orchestrated. But why? I heard metal scraping, something being dragged across rock. A rope. A weapon. A bag. I didn't know. My husband's breathing grew fainter beside me. He was hurt worse than I thought. We need to move them, the man said. Searchers could come through here if someone reports a scream. Scream. My scream. Before the fall. I had called for help without meaning to. My pulse hammered against my ribcage as the man stood and began walking closer to me again. Footsteps, slow, deliberate. He stopped directly beside my head. I felt his presence towering over me. His shadow cutting off the thin line of sunlight warming my cheek. My mind begged. Don't touch me again. Please, please, please. Phone rang. Not loudly, but enough to slice through the moment like a blade. The man answered immediately. Yeah, was. No, nothing unusual. The boy said it would look like an accident. It does. Another pause. I'm sure. The mother's gone. The father too. If only he knew. If anyone asks, the man continued, they fell during a hike. No one will question it. The son already told his neighbors they left early this morning. My blood turned to ice. My son had already started covering his tracks. This wasn't anger. This wasn't impulsive. This was strategy. The call ended. The man's boots shifted on the gravel. He sighed. All right, he muttered. Time to finish the job. Finish. Not verify. Not check. Finish. He took 2 steps toward me. Stop. My husband's voice. Broken. Shaking. Barely audible. But real. The man froze. I felt my husband's hand twitch near mine. He wasn't trying to fight. He wasn't trying to run. He was distracting him. Drawing the danger away from me. The man exhaled through his teeth. So you're still breathing, he said. Disappointed. Almost annoyed. I wanted to scream at my husband to stop, but I couldn't break character. If I moved now, everything would unravel. The man walked toward my husband. Don't do this, my husband whispered. You don't have to hurt her. I felt my heart tear open. He wasn't begging for himself. He was begging for me. The man clicked his tongue. I don't care about either of you, he said flatly. I just get paid to clean up. Then let me talk to him, my husband said, voice trembling. He's my son. No, the man cut him off sharply. He made his choice. And so did you when you stayed quiet. Stayed quiet. What was that supposed to mean? What secret was my husband hiding? Before I could think, there was a struggle, brief, violent. Gasp. Choke, cry. Then silence. Too much silence. I wanted to open my eyes so badly it felt like my eyelids were stitched shut. Finally, the man muttered. That's taken care of. Taken care of. Mo, mo. My whole soul screamed inside me. But I couldn't move. Because if I did, I would die next. The man walked away. Slowly, confidently, climbing out of the ravine the same way he had come. Branches cracked. Footsteps faded. Silence returned. Except for one thing. Faint breath. Weak. Struggling. My husband. He was still alive. Barely, but alive. I opened my eyes, just a sliver. Just enough to see his hand reaching toward me. Fingers trembling. And in a whisper so soft the wind almost swallowed it, he said, "I'm sorry. I should have told you the truth." Before he tried again. Again. That word echoed through my bones. My son had tried this before. And I had never known. I didn't sleep that night. Not even for a minute. My husband tried. He kept tossing, groaning, shifting, turning his back to me like he was trying to pretend none of this was happening. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw the same thing. Our son's fingers slipping from mine. His expression. That cold, distant look. Like he had already decided we didn't deserve to live. I lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to the house breathe. The wooden beams cracked softly in the cold. The refrigerator hummed in the kitchen. A dog barked in the distance. Everyday sounds. Familiar sounds. But everything felt wrong. Unsteady. Untrustworthy. It was like danger filled the air itself. And worst of all, our own son was sleeping just down the hall. Around 3 a.m. I got out of bed. My body felt heavy and light at the same time, as if fear had hollowed me out. I walked to the kitchen as quietly as I could, careful not to wake him. I didn't know what I was looking for. Answers. Courage. A reason to believe this wasn't real. Instead, I found something else. The moment I opened the pantry door, I smelled it. Gasoline. Not strong but unmistakable. Froze. My hand trembled as I reached inside, pushing aside bags of rice and flour. There it was. A small red container tucked deep behind everything else. Who put it there? Why? There was no reason for gasoline to be inside the house. When? I slowly backed away. Heart pounding so hard I thought it might wake the entire neighborhood. I didn't touch it. I didn't need to. The scent clung to my hands, my clothes, my skin, even though I hadn't touched a drop. I shut the pantry door and stepped back into the hallway. That's when I heard something. A soft creak, followed by a slow, dragging step. Someone was awake. I pressed myself against the wall, holding my breath. The hallway was dark. Only a faint light leaking in from the street lamp outside. I couldn't see anything, just a silhouette moving closer. For a moment I prayed it was my husband. But the shape was too small, too slender, too light on its feet. It was him, my son. He walked past me without noticing I was there. He was holding something. Backpack. Heavy looking. Stuffed to the brim. I followed him with my eyes as he moved into the living room. He crouched near the sofa and reached underneath it. And then I heard it. A metallic clink. Like a piece of hardware being set gently on the floor. I watched, barely breathing, as he slid something under the couch. I couldn't see what it was, but based on the sound, it didn't feel harmless. He stood up, zipped the backpack, slung it over his shoulder, and walked back down the hallway toward his room. I stayed frozen until his door closed. Then I moved. I dropped to my knees in front of the couch and reached underneath. Dust brushed against my hands. Then my fingers hit something cold. Pulled it out. My heart stopped. It was a rope. But not just any rope. Climbing rope. Strong. The kind used for, my stomach twisted, rescue missions. Or staged accidents. I sat there staring at it, unable to breathe. Why would he hide this? Why keep it under the couch, not in the garage with our tools? Unless he didn't want us to find it. Unless he had plans. Unless the fall wasn't just a desperate impulse. Maybe he had prepared. Maybe he planned to finish what he started. I put the rope back exactly as I'd found it, then stood up so quickly my vision blurred. I needed to wake my husband. But when I reached our room, he was already sitting up in bed, staring at the doorway like he'd been waiting for me. "What happened?" he whispered. I swallowed hard. "There's gasoline in the pantry," I murmured, my voice shaking. "And a rope. Under the couch." His face drained of color. For a moment he said nothing. Then he lifted the blanket and gestured for me to sit. I did, though my legs trembled beneath me. He grabbed my hand and squeezed it. "We need a plan," he said. His voice was quiet, but it was steady, steadier than mine. "We need to think. We need to act smart. And we need to survive." His words felt like a knife. Because he wasn't talking about thieves. Or strangers. Or some criminal hiding in the woods. He was talking about our own son. And deep down, we both knew something neither of us dared say out loud. Whatever had changed inside our boy was still changing. And it wasn't done yet. That night we didn't sleep at all. We just sat together in the dark, listening to every sound in the house, every movement in the corridor, every breath that didn't belong to us. Waiting, watching, wondering what our son would do next. Because one thing was certain. He hadn't given up. And neither could we. The next morning I felt like I had aged 20 years overnight. I didn't dare sleep, not even after the sun rose. My husband didn't either. We sat at the kitchen table in silence, both of us staring at the same cold coffee cups we'd poured hours earlier but hadn't touched. Every sound in the house felt sharp. Every footstep made my heart jump. And when I heard our son's bedroom door open, I swear my stomach dropped so fast it felt like falling all over again. He walked into the kitchen like nothing had happened. Like he hadn't tried to let us die on that cliff. Like he hadn't hidden gasoline in the pantry. Or a rope under the couch. Or stared at us with that empty expression that didn't belong to the boy we raised. He opened the fridge, grabbed the orange juice, poured himself a glass, and stood there drinking while looking straight at us. No good morning. No apology. Not even curiosity about why we looked terrified. Just silence. And that same unsettling calm. Then he said, "I'm going out." My husband tried to sound casual. "Where?" He didn't blink. "Out." And he left. We didn't try to stop him. We didn't ask when he'd be back. We didn't follow. We waited until we heard his car leave the driveway. The moment the sound faded, my husband grabbed the keys. "We're going to the hospital," he said. "Today." I don't care if he hates it. We need answers. I didn't argue. We both knew we couldn't survive another night like that without understanding what was happening to our son. But deep inside me, a fear grew heavier. What if the hospital wasn't safe? What if they sent us home again? What if no one believed us? We found an old psychiatrist's card in our drawer, the one who'd seen our son years ago when he was a teenager and going through a difficult phase. He had been troubled back then too, but nothing like this. Back then he had sadness. Now he had something darker. We drove straight to the clinic. Every red light made my husband tap the steering wheel in impatience. Every slow car made him mutter under his breath. And I kept looking over my shoulder, half expecting to see our son following us, watching us, listening. When we finally arrived, the waiting room was almost empty. The receptionist recognized our last name and raised an eyebrow. "He hasn't been in for years," she said. "Is everything all right?" "No," my husband said flatly. "We need to speak to the doctor. It's urgent." They squeezed us into his schedule. 15 minutes later, we were sitting in front of the psychiatrist, a gray-haired man with glasses and the same calm presence he had the last time we saw him. He smiled politely. It felt wrong to see a smile when the world inside me was collapsing. "So," he began gently, What brings you here today? I didn't know where to start. My throat closed up. My husband had to do the talking. Our son tried to kill us, he said bluntly. The doctor didn't flinch, but he did straighten in his chair. My husband explained everything. The cliff, the fall, the hidden gasoline, the rope, the way our son looked at us with no emotion at all. The doctor listened without interrupting. When we finished, he folded his hands on his desk. I need to tell you something, he said quietly. Something I should have insisted on when he was younger. But you chose to stop treatment and I couldn't force anything. My stomach twisted. What do you mean? I whispered. He sighed, removed his glasses and rubbed his eyes. Your son doesn't just have anger issues. He doesn't just have mood swings or impulsive tendencies. What he showed years ago were early signs of something much more serious. Something that can worsen dramatically with age, stress, trauma, or substance abuse. I felt the room tilt. He continued. When he was a teenager, he showed clear signs of antisocial behavioral patterns, combined with emotional detachment, lack of empathy, manipulative tendencies. But he was young. Sometimes those traits fade with maturity. Sometimes they stabilize. Sometimes they evolve into something more dangerous. My heart pounded so loudly I barely heard the rest. I asked you to bring him for long-term treatment, the doctor said softly. But you didn't come back. And now it sounds like those traits have evolved in a very alarming way. My husband's voice cracked. Are you saying he's capable of killing us? The doctor looked at us with a seriousness so heavy I felt it in my bones. I'm saying, he replied, that he already tried. And he may try again. I grabbed the arms of my chair. I needed something to hold on to. The doctor leaned forward. You must not confront him alone. You must not accuse him. And for the love of God, do not let him know you're seeking help. If what you described is accurate, he will view it as a threat. And people with his condition eliminate threats. Felt cold all over. So what do we do? I whispered. He hesitated. You need professional intervention. He needs to be evaluated immediately. But he won't come willingly. In cases like this, he paused, choosing his words carefully. Sometimes the safest solution is involuntary hospitalization. But that requires evidence, documentation, and a plan. My husband buried his face in his hands. Could barely breathe. The doctor slid a folder toward us. Start writing everything down, he said. Every detail, every threat, every dangerous behavior. This isn't paranoia. This is survival. You're not imagining things. You're not overreacting. You're in real danger. The word danger echoed in my mind long after we left the clinic. When we got back to the car, my husband stared straight ahead. We're getting him help, he said. Whether he wants it or not. But all I could think was, would we survive long enough to save him? Because if our son realized what we were planning, he wouldn't hesitate. He wouldn't stop. He wouldn't show mercy. And as we drove home, every mile felt like a countdown to something we couldn't yet see, but could already feel coming. I don't know how long I sat in the car after we arrived home. Maybe 5 minutes, maybe 15. All I remember is that the engine was off, the house was quiet, and neither my husband nor I dared to open the doors. We were afraid. Afraid of our own son. Afraid of the silence. Afraid of what waited for us inside. But most of all, afraid that he had already figured out we went to see the doctor. My husband finally broke the stillness. We can't stay out here. If he's home and sees this, it'll look suspicious. Suspicious. That word hung in the air like smoke. Because the truth was, everything we did now felt suspicious. If we whispered in the kitchen, would he notice? If we locked our bedroom door, would he ask why? If we didn't answer a question quickly enough, would he sense fear? We stepped out of the car and walked slowly to the front door. My husband unlocked it, and we entered the hallway cautiously. The house was still. Too still. His shoes were gone from the entryway. His jacket was missing from the hook. The lights in the living room were off. "He's not home," my husband whispered. I let myself breathe, just a little. But the relief didn't last long. We found something on the kitchen counter. Something he never did before. Note. A single line, written in his handwriting. "We need to talk." My husband picked it up with trembling fingers. "Did you tell him where we were going this morning?" he asked me. "No," I whispered. "I told him we were running errands." "So how did he know anything was wrong?" We didn't say it out loud, but we both thought the same thing. He sees everything. He watches us more than we realize. He notices what we hide. My husband folded the note and slipped it into his pocket. "When he gets back," he said, "we stay calm. We act normal. We don't escalate anything." I nodded, though my pulse was racing so hard it made my fingertips tingle. We tried to return to our routine. My husband pretended to fix something in the garage. I pretended to fold laundry in the bedroom. But every few minutes, one of us would check the window, waiting for the sound of his car. He returned at sunset. I heard the tires first, then the gravel crunching under his shoes. The front door opened, closed softly, and then nothing. No greeting. Not even footsteps. Just silence. Then unexpectedly his voice. "Mom!" Froze. "Mom, come here a second." My husband appeared in the hallway behind me, silently urging caution. But if I ignored our son, he'd know something was wrong. So I walked toward the living room, my heart pounding so loudly I was surprised he didn't hear it. He was standing by the window, hands in his pockets, staring at me with an expression I couldn't read. "You and Dad were gone a long time today," he said. "Where'd you go?" My throat dried instantly. "Think. They come. Don't hesitate." "We had an appointment," I said. "Just routine stuff. Groceries, pharmacy." He interrupted. "Mom." Just one word, but filled with suspicion. "You didn't answer my question." I swallowed. "I just did." His eyes narrowed the slightest bit. Not anger, calculation. "You went somewhere else," he said. "I can tell. You always fidget with your necklace when you lie." My hand was on my necklace. I hadn't even realized it. He stepped closer. "Where do you go?" Before I could answer, my husband walked into the room, trying to sound casual. "We just had errands." "Why are you interrogating your mother?" Our son didn't look at him. His attention stayed locked on me, like a predator ignoring a distraction. "I wasn't talking to you," he said coldly. That moment, those 5 words, sent a shiver straight through me. My husband tensed. "You don't talk to your father like that." Now our son turned his head slowly, like it was an effort. "She lies worse than you do," he said calmly. "But both of you are lying." My husband moved closer to me. "What exactly are you accusing us of?" Our son's eyes drifted to the hallway table. My purse was sitting there. His gaze locked on it. "You cleaned out your purse before going out," he said. "Emptied it completely. That's not normal. People only do that when they don't want others to find something." He stepped toward the purse. My blood turned to ice. Inside that purse was the psychiatrist's card. My husband quickly blocked him, stepping between him and the table. "Don't touch her things." Our son paused, watching him with an expression that wasn't anger, but something far more chilling. "Smile." A slow, deliberate, almost amused smile. "Why?" he asked. "What's in there that you don't want me to see?" I stepped forward quickly. "It's my purse. And I don't need to explain myself." His smile faded instantly. His expression hardened. Then slowly, he reached into his own pocket and pulled out our doctor's business card. The same card he must have found earlier. My knees weakened. He held it between 2 fingers. "You dropped this in the bathroom this morning," he said softly. "Did you think I wouldn't notice?" He tossed it onto the coffee table. "So," he continued, "did you have a nice chat?" My husband's jaw clenched. "Son." He raised a hand sharply to silence him. "I'm not stupid," he said. "And I'm not crazy. His voice was low now. Controlled. Too controlled. You think you can plan something behind my back? You think I don't see what you're trying to do? He moved closer. I could see the tension in his jaw, the way his fingers curled slightly, like he was restraining himself. You made a mistake, he whispered. A big one. My husband stepped in front of me fully. Don't talk to your mother like that. You're scaring her. Our son tilted his head. Good. That word hit me like a slap. He stepped back finally and walked toward the stairs. But don't worry, he said as he climbed the first step. I'll deal with this later. He disappeared into his room and shut the door. Not slammed. Quietly. And that quietness frightened me more than anything else that day. My husband locked the front door, then the back door, then checked every window like we were preparing for a break-in. But the truth was worse. We weren't afraid of someone breaking in. We were afraid of someone already inside. And that night, as we lay awake listening for every creak, every footstep, every shift in the walls, I realized. Our son no longer suspected us. He knew. And now he was waiting, watching, planning. The countdown had officially started. I didn't sleep that night. Not even for a second. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Adam's face. The boy I raised, the child I held against my chest. The son who let go of my hand on that cliff. As if I were nothing more than a problem to erase. My husband, Daniel, paced the tiny cabin floor. He was trying to stay strong for me. But every few minutes he stopped, pressed both hands on the table, and dropped his head as if all the years of fatherhood were suddenly made of iron. The storm outside had calmed, but inside us, there was only thunder. Around 3 a.m, Daniel froze mid-step. He wasn't looking at me. He was staring at the old wooden drawer next to the bed. A drawer neither of us had opened yet. Mary, look. Inside, wrapped in dust and age, lay something that didn't belong in this abandoned cabin at all. Letter. Folded with military precision. Sealed. And on the front, written in handwriting we recognized instantly. To my parents. Do not read unless something happens. My breath caught. Daniel grabbed the edges of the letter but hesitated so long that I thought he might never open it. This wasn't just a piece of paper. It was a doorway into Adam's mind. Into what he truly thought of us. Into the darkness we hadn't been able to see. Daniel finally broke the seal. Inside was a single page. Crumpled slightly, as if it had been rewritten many times. And as he read silently, I watched the color drain from his face. What does it say? My voice trembled. He handed me the letter. My hand shook so violently that the paper rustled like dry leaves. And then, I read our son's words. Mom, if you're reading this, then either I'm gone or something forced your hand. There are things you don't know about me. Things I never wanted you to know. But they will catch up eventually. And when they do, you must protect yourselves. My stomach tightened. Protect ourselves. From what? Kept reading. The men who approached me. The ones who promised money. They're not just businessmen. They want you silent. Because of what Dad discovered. Because of what I accidentally told them. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. But I can't take it back. Daniel sank into the chair. His face was ashen. What did you discover? I whispered. But he didn't look at me. He didn't answer. 'Cause suddenly, I wasn't sure I wanted to know. I forced my eyes back to the letter. They made me choose. Either I convince you both to sign the papers and disappear quietly, or they disappear you for real. My heart felt like it cracked in the center. Our son hadn't just been pressured. He had been weaponized. Felt sick. I thought they were bluffing. Until they showed me what they did to the last family. Who refused. I pressed the paper to my chest. My whole body trembled. This wasn't just betrayal. It was fear. Desperation. Manipulation. Adam hadn't acted alone. But he had still acted. Daniel leaned forward, rubbing his temples. He should have come to us. told us everything. Maybe he tried, I whispered. Maybe he wanted to protect us. Maybe letting go of my hand at the cliff wasn't just cruelty, but panic. I continued reading. If they come for you, run. Don't try to find me. Don't try to fix me. Just disappear. Froze. Disappear. The word echoed inside my skull. That's exactly what Daniel had said. After we crawled away from the cliff. Pretend we're dead. Now the letter made that command feel horrifyingly justified. Daniel was staring at the wall, jaw clenched so tight I could hear his teeth grind. There's more, I said softly. He nodded, but he didn't look. So I read the final lines aloud. Mom. I'm ashamed, but I thought I could control it. I thought I could protect you. Now everything is spiraling. If you're still alive, forgive me. I never meant to become the reason you died. The room felt smaller, colder, heavier. I didn't know what hurt more. The fact that our son betrayed us, or the fact that he had been drowning in terror, and we never saw it. Daniel stood and grabbed his jacket. Where are you going? He asked. To find out who the hell threatened our son, he said. And why they want us gone. I gripped the letter tightly. 'Cause for the first time, I realized something terrifying. Our son wasn't the end of the story. He was the beginning. Daniel, I whispered, my voice barely a breath. If they already tried to kill us once, they'll try again. He looked at me. Determined, exhausted, grieving all at once. Then we can't wait for them to strike again, he said. We strike first. And just like that, our survival stopped being an accident. Became a mission. A mission we never asked for. A mission we couldn't refuse. 'Cause now, we knew too much. And whoever wanted us dead wasn't going to stop. Not until one of us, them or us, was gone for good. The next morning arrived without sunlight. A thick gray fog hung outside the cabin windows, swallowing the forest, making every shape look like a shadow with teeth. I wrapped Adam's letter carefully and tucked it into my jacket, close to my heart where the pain lived now. Daniel hadn't slept either. He sat at the table sharpening an old hunting knife he found in the cabin, the metal scraping with a slow, rhythmic sound that made my nerves twist. We're not armed enough, I said quietly. He didn't look up. We don't need to win a fight. We just need answers. But I knew that tone. Daniel wanted more than answers. He wanted the truth that had haunted him since the day he discovered something. The thing Adam mentioned in the letter. The secret he still refused to tell me. I didn't push him. Not yet. Instead, I cleaned the cabin, trying to silence the anxious trembling in my hands. Every footstep outside made me jump. Every creak of the wooden walls felt like someone leaning in to listen. Around noon, the floorboards beneath the rug made a strange, hollow sound. Froze. Daniel, I whispered, come here. He moved beside me, lifted the rug, and we both stared at a small square door built flush with the floor. A hidden basement. Daniel knelt, prying it open with a knife. The hinges groaned like something waking from a long sleep. A cold breath of stale air rushed up. There might be supplies, he said. We shouldn't go down there, I whispered. But Daniel had already started down the steps. Followed. Because I wasn't letting him face the unknown alone. Not anymore. The basement was darker than night. I fumbled for a flashlight and swept its beam across the room. Elves, pulse, wait, and then heard it. A sound I will never forget. A muffled groan. Human. Daniel snapped around. He raised the flashlight, and its beam landed on something in the far corner. Whoa. Not something. One. Man. Bound to a chair. Hands tied behind him. Mouth gagged with fabric so tight his lips were almost purple. His face bruised. Eyes swollen. And those eyes. They widened the second they saw us. Mary, Daniel whispered sharply. Stay behind me. I didn't listen. I rushed forward and ripped the gag off the man's mouth. He gasped and coughed, head falling forward before he sucked in a breath like it was the first air he'd had in days. Please, he croaked. Don't let them bring me back. Who? Daniel demanded. Who did this to you? The man didn't answer. Instead, he stared at me. Really stared. As if trying to make sure I was real. Then his voice dropped to a trembling whisper. You're Mary Thompson. My blood turned to ice. Daniel grabbed the man by the shoulders. How do you know my wife's name? The man swallowed hard. Because. He shuddered, coughing again. I worked with your son. My knees went weak. With Adam. My voice felt like it belonged to somebody else. The man nodded slowly. Please. Tell me. I can explain everything, but they're coming soon. Daniel cut the ropes with the hunting knife. As soon as the man's hands were free, he rubbed his wrists, breathing fast, terrified. What's your name? Asked. He hesitated, then said quietly. Elias. My heart skipped. That name. I had heard it before. Adam mentioned him once. A co-worker he didn't trust. A man who knew too much about everything. Back then I thought nothing of it. Now I wished I had listened. Daniel pulled a chair in front of Elias, placing himself between us like a shield. Talk. Now. Elias looked up, eyes full of dread. You're both supposed to be dead. Silence. Suffocating. My mouth went dry. Daniel didn't move a muscle. What do you mean? Daniel asked, voice dangerously calm. Elias licked his cracked lips. They showed Adam the plan. They forced him to cooperate. And when he hesitated, they said they'd get rid of you themselves. He paused, eyes glistening with regret. The cliff wasn't your son's idea. A tremor ran through my entire body. Daniel clenched his fists. Who are they? He demanded. Elias shook his head rapidly. I don't know their real names. Everyone calls them the brokers. They buy silence. They buy people. They buy disappearances. And why us? Pressed. Elias took a long, shaky breath. Because your husband, he pointed at Daniel with trembling fingers, found something he shouldn't have. I turned to Daniel. There it was. The secret he'd been avoiding. Daniel, I whispered. What did you find? But before he could answer, Elias continued. They think you have the files. Evidence. The documents that prove everything. His voice broke. They think Adam gave them to you. Daniel stood slowly. Too slowly. Like a man carrying a truth he could no longer bury. Elias's voice dropped to a panicked whisper. If they realize you're alive, they will come for you again. He leaned closer. And next time, they won't use a cliff. Suddenly, footsteps echoed above us. Heavy, deliberate, blows. Elias's face drained of color. Daniel grabbed my hand. And without speaking, we all understood the same chilling truth. We weren't alone in the cabin anymore. The footsteps upstairs were slow. Too slow. Not the hurried thumping of someone searching. No, this was deliberate. Measured. Like someone who already knew exactly where we were. Elias's breathing turned ragged. Daniel's grip tightened around my wrist. I could feel his pulse hammering under his skin. Another step. Long creak. Then another. Whoever was up there wasn't trying to hide. Daniel pointed at the far corner of the basement, where a stack of dusty crates formed a shadowed alcove. Go, he mouthed silently. He pushed me gently behind the crates. Elias followed, limping, one hand clutching his ribs. Daniel stayed near the stairs, knife in hand, ready to defend us with nothing but steel and stubborn courage. The footsteps stopped directly above the basement door. For a moment, the world held its breath. Black. The latch moved. The door began to open. Light spilled down the stairs. Dim, golden, slicing through the basement darkness like a blade. A silhouette appeared at the top of the steps. Broad. Faceless in the glow. I dug my nails into the wood of the crate, praying he couldn't hear the shaking of my breath. The man descended slowly. One step. Three. Only when he reached the bottom did he speak. In a calm, low voice that chilled me to the bone. Daniel Thompson, he said. As stubborn as they described. Daniel didn't answer. He held the knife steady, shoulders squared. The man walked forward a few steps, hands raised as if he were greeting an old friend. He wore a dark jacket, tactical boots, and a strange earpiece with a blinking red light. "This could have been easier," he continued, "if you both had stayed dead." My heart twisted painfully. They knew. They knew we survived. The man tilted his head. "Where is it?" Daniel didn't blink. "Where's what?" "The drive. The files Adam gave you." He smiled. Not a kind smile. A knowing one. "Don't insult my intelligence. We know he left it in your truck. It wasn't in the wreckage. So where is it now?" Daniel took one step forward, placing himself fully between the man and the crates where Elias and I hid. "You're not leaving this cabin with anything," Daniel growled. The man sighed, almost disappointed. Then he reached into his jacket. Elias suddenly grabbed my arm so hard it hurt. "Don't move," he whispered. The man pulled something out. Not a gun. Radio. "Target located," he said coolly. "Send the others." Others. Plural. A wave of terror crashed through me. Daniel lunged. The man sidestepped effortlessly, knocking the knife from Daniel's hand with a single, practiced motion. Clattered across the floor. Daniel swung again, fists raised, but the man caught his arm and shoved him back with brutal force. Daniel hit the wall, gasping. I almost screamed. Elias covered my mouth just in time. The man approached Daniel, kicking the knife far out of reach. "You have 5 seconds to tell me where the drive is," he said quietly. After that, I stopped being polite. Daniel wiped blood from his lip, breathing hard. "Go to hell." The man clicked his tongue. Wrong answer. Couldn't watch. I couldn't just sit and hide while my husband was beaten again because of something he tried to protect. But when I tried to move, Elias grabbed my shoulders. "No," he hissed. "If you go out now, he'll kill all 3 of you. Trust me." Trust him. The man who had been tied in a basement. The man Adam said he didn't trust. But at that moment, Elias's eyes weren't deceitful. They were terrified. And knowledgeable. Like he had seen this exact scenario before. And survived it only by obeying rules he prayed I would follow too. The man grabbed Daniel by the collar and slammed him against the wall, the thud echoing through the basement. "Where?" "It." Daniel coughed, struggling to breathe. Then he said something I didn't expect. "It's gone." The man froze. "Gone." His voice sharpened instantly. "What do you mean gone?" Daniel let out a weak, bitter laugh. "I destroyed it." Elias's hand flew to his forehead. "Oh no. Daniel." The man grabbed Daniel's throat and tightened his grip. Daniel clawed at his wrist, gasping. "You expect me to believe," the intruder whispered coldly, "that you destroyed the only thing keeping you alive?" "I don't care anymore," Daniel wheezed. "I'm done running." The man's expression shifted from fury to something far worse. Determination. "Then you leave me no choice." He reached into his jacket again. This time it was a weapon. A long black knife. Silent, deadly, perfect for close quarters. It glinted under the basement light as he raised it. No. I couldn't keep silent anymore. The man snapped his head toward the crates. He heard me. Elias cursed under his breath. The man started walking toward our hiding spot. Low. Inevitable. Elias grabbed my hand. "Mary, listen to me," he whispered urgently. "When I say run, you run. Don't look back." My body trembled violently. I didn't want to leave Daniel. I didn't want to abandon him again. Not after everything. But when the man stepped around the crates, knife raised, eyes cold and focused, Elias shoved me toward the stairs. "Run." And I did. I ran with every ounce of strength I had left. The stairs. Through the cabin. Into the choking fog outside. My last glimpse of the basement burned into my memory forever. Daniel struggling to stand. Elias tackling the man from behind. The knife flashing as they collided. And the man yelling into his radio. The wife is escaping. Intercept. The forest swallowed me whole. And the nightmare was only beginning. I didn't sleep the night before the hearing. My thoughts kept circling back to the same image. The moment our son loosened his grip on my hand and let us fall. The shock in his eyes. The coldness. The silence that followed. But now everything would be different. Because the truth wasn't just on our side anymore. It was undeniable. When we arrived at the courthouse, Daniel held my hand tightly. Not the way a husband holds his wife's hand out of love, though that was true too. He held it like a man guarding something fragile but unbroken, something he almost lost but managed to protect. As soon as we stepped inside, whispers followed us. That's the couple who fell into the ravine. I heard their son tried to kill them. No, he said they attacked him. Look at them, they look too calm for that to be true. Calm wasn't the word. Determined was. Our lawyer, Mrs. Hayward, approached with a stack of folders so thick she could barely carry them. It's time, she said. They've reviewed the first set of evidence. They already have questions. Questions, that was what we wanted. Because questioning meant doubt. And doubt meant the story finally had cracks wide enough for the truth to seep in. Inside the courtroom, Cole sat at his table, shoulders stiff, eyes darting between us and the judge. His lawyer whispered urgently in his ear, but Cole wasn't listening. His hands trembled, tapping nervously against his leg. He knew. The walls he built were collapsing. The judge cleared his throat. We'll begin with the new evidence submitted by the defense. He turned to our lawyer. Proceed. Mrs. Hayward stood, placed a USB drive on the evidence tray and said, Your Honor, this is the drone footage recovered from the county ranger's storage. Footage filmed on the exact day of the fall. It directly contradicts the defendant's earlier testimony. The courtroom shifted. Cole's face went pale. His lawyer's hand froze mid-gesture. The screen lit up. There we were, Daniel and I, walking a few steps behind Cole. Not running. Not yelling. Not threatening him. Then the moment. Cole stopped, turned, said something we couldn't hear. And then, he pushed Daniel first. Hard. With intent. Daniel stumbled backward, fighting to regain his balance. Then Cole grabbed my wrist. Even in the grainy footage, you could see the hesitation in my body. The fear, the confusion. You could see me trying to pull back. And then, he let go. Not slipped. Not lost his grip. He let go. The footage ended. The courtroom erupted. Gasps, murmurs, someone whispering, "Oh my God." I didn't look at Cole. I looked at the judge. His jaw was clenched. His eyes hardened. "Mr. Mitchell," the judge said slowly, "would you like to revise your previous testimony?" Cole's mouth opened and closed like a drowning man gasping for air. But no words came out. His lawyer stood abruptly. "Your Honor, we request a brief recess." "Denied," the judge said firmly. "The court will proceed." For the first time since the fall, Cole looked small. Not physically, emotionally. Like a child caught in a lie too big for him to control. His face twisted with panic, then anger, then fear. And then, finally, he spoke. "I didn't mean for them to die," he whispered. The room froze. He wasn't confessing because he wanted forgiveness. He wasn't confessing because he felt remorse. He confessed because the evidence left him nowhere to hide. The judge nodded solemnly. "The court will take that admission into account." Cole sank into his seat, burying his face in his hands. The rest of the hearing moved fast. Too fast for him to recover, too fast for his lawyer to salvage the shattered pieces of his defense. By the time the judge struck his gavel, ordering Cole into custody, everything felt unreal. Like the final page of a long, painful story had finally been written. Outside the courthouse, reporters surrounded us, microphones pointed like arrows. "How do you feel now that your son has confessed? What will happen to your family? Do you forgive him?" Forgive. The word stabbed deeper than any fall from a cliff ever could. Daniel stepped forward first, shielding me. "We're not ready to answer that," he said firmly. "We just want peace." Is something we hadn't felt for years. As the crowd eventually dispersed, Daniel wrapped his arm around my shoulders. "It's over," he said softly. But I didn't answer. Because part of me knew the truth. It would never be over. Not really. We would heal. We would move forward. We would rebuild everything that was broken. But the scar, the one carved into our lives the moment our son betrayed us, that scar would stay. Yet as we walked toward the parking lot, I looked up at the bright sky. For the first time since the fall, I felt warmth instead of fear. We survived. We told the truth. And the world finally heard us. Daniel squeezed my hand. "We're alive," he whispered. He nodded. "And this time, no one will silence us again." Before you go, don't forget to support the channel. If this story kept you watching until the end, make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, and turn on the notifications. Your support helps me bring more real, powerful stories every week. And tell me in the comments, what would you have done in my place?